Usually people want to get something if they give something. If you go into any negotiation or sales situation where it's win or lose, at the end of the day, it really just comes down to tying down very strategically what you're wanting that person to give into the result that they desire.
When you think about the nature of the outcome and creating different avenues to get there, it's good, better, best. Best being a done for you, where we will have more deliverables because you need resources. And then we will also pair that with a high delivery AS, or accountability support system. Gotta have that AS.
I think the mindset that you win or lose is the biggest reason why negotiations tend to fail.
That's definitely pretty concise. There's a quote from the TV show Stranger Things. And basically one of the main characters is taking care of a little girl and she's on the run. And they're talking about going out for trick-or-treating and Halloween, and she wants to leave the house. He can't. It turns into, he was like, well, I'll tell you what, I'll come back early from work. We'll eat as much candy. I'll bring it back with me. We'll sit on the couch, watch whatever TV show, and eat as much candy as we can. He said, does that sound like a good compromise? And she's like, what's compromise? Because clearly she doesn't speak English or something. But he says compromise is halfway happy. And so that's where both sides lose something, both sides gain something. And basically they say that the art of the negotiation and the way that you know you've arrived at a potential thing is both parties are slightly dissatisfied with the outcome. So yeah, everyone wins a little bit. But I think that the art of negotiation in general, of how do we find a mutually beneficial middle point, really is the entire DNA of a sales conversation.
Yeah, I mean, you're right about that. I would say any interaction where you're exchanging money is, in fact, a negotiation to an extent. Now, negotiation, I don't want you necessarily to think like I want to charge $10 billion, but I'm only going to end up charging 1,000. And like that's the negotiating thing per se. Now, maybe prices to an extent, but I think the point of this conversation is less about the tactical specific. You want to charge 3K, but you're willing to charge somebody 1,000, or you might get them to 5,000, rather than like what's the inclusions are. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, in that sales situation, somebody's going to part with something, their money, in exchange for you parting with your time and expertise, and keeping that in mind. But you're both also gaining something, where you're gaining that person's money and they're gaining ideally a result or outcome that they desire, right? So you're both giving and you're both getting an exchange of stuff, and that's where the, so to speak, negotiation is kind of happening.
You know, because I was kind of curious, because we obviously have similar definitions around what that is, but just for the audience, negotiations are defined as a strategic discussion between two or more parties to resolve differences, create new options, or reach an acceptable agreement by understanding mutual interests, preparing thoroughly, and communicating effectively. And I think that a lot of people, when they think about sales, they really don't have this idea of a helpful, empowering way of thinking about it. It's coming into the equation or the consultation as, well, I'm going to ask this person to make something and to give me something, not how can I look to help this person get to wherever they're going, or how can I help them make a decision? And immediately it becomes a very self-centered conversation that I think is going to ultimately result in someone feeling a little strange if they don't understand their product, which is really where I think negotiation comes into. Do you understand what the person you're sitting across from has and stands to gain, and what they stand to lose if they don't use your solution?
It's funny. I went on a GPT building tear over the past day. So I went in and I'm like, all right, I got to finish up. You know, we got Persona Parker and a couple of other GPTs now that we kind of rely on and use and whatnot. But I did Flo, I did Parker, I did Olaf, I got Pam, and I got Harry. So I was working on Olaf, which is the offer architect, not the snowman, but the offer architect. And I couldn't think of another O. I'm like, Oscar, maybe that Oscar would have been, but Olaf was funny. And I gave them all superhero like images. So it's like the colorful background and everything like that. But like Olaf was a freaking jacked offer guy, like holding his clipboard and everything. Anyways, as I'm talking about building your offer and everything, one of the big components that I was really trying to structure in there well was the actual, like, what are people getting, and making sure that they understood it in a succinct way, and really intrinsically burying the underlying feeling of I'm getting a lot of value out of what I'm paying for. And that's really the big thing in the art of sales, is making sure people almost feel like, oh, what I'm getting, like I'm paying something that's cheap for what I'm getting. In essence, it's a really good deal. The value is there. But again, you still want somebody to part with their money. When you go and buy something at the store, you're parting with your money. The store is inherently giving you something for that, but they also have to give stuff. Like, they also have to get stuff in return. And that's just the whole idea of the negotiation.
Yeah, I think that helps people wrap their brains around like, and this is kind of parlaying into a little bit of project management of like action items versus deliverables, and I think negotiations, it's how you arrive at what exactly that other person's getting. And I think that because our audience ideally is a lot of health coaches, this is where breaking down that offer into the deliverables versus the actions, or what kind of support system are you setting your people up for, really does become the crux of that specific negotiation conversation, or AKA the sales consultation is like, hey, tell me what problems you have going on. Here are the actions that I can take. Here are the tangible things that you're going to have as we leave this conversation. Because when you're now going into your solution presentation or your offering, this is where if they don't really conceptually understand and it's languaged in a way that might be unfamiliar to your target demographic or whoever you're sitting across from, you're going to miss because you're going to miscommunicate it. And that's where when we think about, the three things that successful negotiation really is understanding those mutual interests, preparing thoroughly, and communicating effectively. And so the communication component is, here's what I do. I help people, whatever, if you want to look at a positioning statement, but you should be able to take the same deliverable and reframe it in like 10 different ways, because the outcome is still going to be the same. So for instance, Steve, when we think about deliverables that health coaches should have, what are like three things that come up in your mind?
I think the biggest thing is being able to tie down your program to the result that somebody wants, and what the overarching, call it, process or framework or whatever might be in that journey. Is that a tangible item? Maybe not so much, but the thought process that somebody can kind of latch onto and buy into, I think is going to be the thing. In terms of that, the next thing is going to be what the support system and structure in place is going to be. So if you're doing one-on-one weekly calls, if you're doing group calls, if you're doing async check-ins through text messages and voice notes or Slack, whatever that might be, making sure that somebody understands how they're going to receive feedback and how they can ask questions and how they can engage with you is going to be important. And I think the last one is, with anything that you're trying to deliver a result, what are those milestone situations and how do those things go? Are you going to be having conversations every 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 3 months, whatever the right thing for you is? Are you doing blood work? Are you jumping on a scale? Are you doing an in-body weekly? Like, what does that process look like for the feedback of if all this effort, time, energy, money, stuff like that is working, / or do we need to make some changes? So I would say from a delivering results perspective, those are high level, the three knee jerk that come to mind.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's also when you think about the nature of the outcome and creating different avenues to get there, it's good, better, best, best being a done for you, where we will have more deliverables because you need resources. And then we will also pair that with a high delivery AS, or accountability support system. Got to have that ass. If you're not doing a done for you, then you're doing a done with you, which would be the next step down. So good, better, best, best being done for you, better being a done with you, and then good being a do it yourself, where you have a full host of resources and you have to then kind of navigate what those resources are going to do for you at various points in your journey. And that's why having a coach is so very helpful. If you're wondering what the value proposition is, a coach is the proverbial GPS on a client's goal, where if they don't have one, like a GPS is turn by turn guidance. You make a wrong turn, there's a traffic jam, there's some kind of environmental limitation. You're trying to figure out how long it's going to take. A coach is going to help navigate all that, which is why it's a done with you and a done for you, or better and best solution. But when you think about having a good solution, this is where a lot of people can go and find their own programs, their own plans. And when I say their own, I mean ones that are online. You can go Google, hey, what's a weight loss plan? it's not going to give you the same turn by turn guidance. And so if you don't have enough understanding of yourself, the general process and the expected outcomes of each phase or each item, and you're struggling to like figure out, why is this relevant? Why is this important? Or if you're getting frustrated, you're not making progress, that's where you would probably want to go with a done with you or done for you option. Now, that's probably what I would say the 3 deliverables are when you consider, depends on the amount of resources allocated to the project.
That all makes sense. And I think the biggest takeaway here is usually people want to get something if they give something. And it's not just this plain like, hey, I offer a program and you pay me for the program. Always think there's probably something extra you should think about giving and or potentially getting. If you go into any negotiation or a sales situation where it's win or lose, then more oftentimes than not, you're probably going to feel like you lost versus realizing there's probably bridges that you're going to have to build in between there. And at the end of the day, it really just comes down to tying down very strategically what you're wanting that person to give into the result that they desire. The faster you can get it for them, the less effort on their part to get there, the more guaranteed that the result is. Those are things that people are likely caring about. So when we think about the marketing, offer stacking, and all those components, like those are just emotional triggers that are going to get somebody to go, oh, okay, this is what makes sense for me to part way with my money and my time and this effort and this energy. Thinking through it that way might just reframe the idea of a sales conversation a little bit differently.
Absolutely. And, and this is why I have qualms with different phrasing of like closed won versus closed loss. Like how you manage your pipeline becomes how you subconsciously speak to people. And when we say opportunities, leads, like those are things that as a solopreneur, if your job isn't just to sell, but your job is actually fulfilling the service, you're going to want to probably maybe change some of that. And this is where Steve and I have had conversations around, life changes is something that people use as a revenue generation item. And that's fine if that's what's empowering for you, as long as it ties back into the viability of the business. And I think that's just really important too. You can frame things however you want. It just has to move everything forward. And what happens if you have someone that falls into the closed loss category and you don't sell them something? Now, that's where you would go into a nurture sequence, or how do you continue to go back and build enough trust, or give enough value that you become the obvious solution and you don't have to justify it. You don't have to negotiate over it in terms of haggling and, those really just not fun sales consultations that usually seem like they happen more so in the beginning. But that's going to be in a future episode. So if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you go and find that. So turn on the little notification thing in the top corner. So that way, as these things come out, as these episodes come out, you're going to want to make sure that, especially because it's currently the back half of December in 2025, you should have strong nurture systems for the people that don't elect to move forward with your services in January. Your ability to nurture will determine how successful you are in probably the second quarter, when traditionally consumer behavior dries up a little bit unless people are actively looking for a fitness solution like they are in January. So, Steve, any closing thoughts or remarks as we wrap up negotiations or sales or New Year's?
I promise you guys, if you come and you listen in more, you subscribe and you like the videos, throw some comments on there, we will provide you with lots of value that's well worth your time, your effort, and your energy for clicking those buttons and jumping on in. Just see what I did there with that negotiation.
See that? Give and take.
That's really a wrap. We wanted to go short, fast, quick, and to the point today, guys. Make it easy to take down and just try to shift that perspective on sales and negotiations. So we appreciate you guys jumping on today, listening to Beyond the Pump, where we break down the business of fitness and nutrition. Hopefully you take this, can lean into it in your business, and you can go grow something with this. See you guys next time.
Peace.